kill you, Graham.
Killed with a single shot to the back of the head.
I am the judge, the jury, and the execution.
Piecing the puzzle together.
You want a confession? All right, I confess.
I don't like talking to cops.
Columbo unravels the case Saturday at 9 on Anglia.
The search for Anna Pulaski's killer intensifies in Taggart in half an hour. First, the true story of Operation Green Ice.
Tonight on Undercover Customs, double agents and drug dealers caught on camera and their billion-dollar prize.
This is the Queen's Warehouse, a secret location somewhere in Britain where customs store and eventually burn all the drugs they seize. Here there are hundreds of millions of pounds worth of heroin, cocaine, ecstasy and cannabis. Proof that drug smuggling is not only big business, it's also very profitable. A kilo of cocaine like this costs next to nothing to produce in South America. But on the streets of Britain, it's worth £100,000. There is, however, one drawback. Before they can spend these profits, the drug barons must launder their money. And that means stripping it of all its criminal connections by transferring it through legitimate bank accounts around the world. Now, if customs investigators can intercept that process, then they have all the evidence they need to put the drug dealers behind bars. That's what was at stake in Operation Green Ice. And what you're about to see is exactly what happened, including secretly recorded surveillance video never before shown on television.
Flight 219 from California. On board a woman with a reputation as one of the world's best money launderers. Heidi Herrera had been working for the Colombian Cali drugs cartel for the past 2 years. One of her jobs had been to set up links with the mafia. Customs officers knew that she and her minder were now bringing drugs money into Britain. Using hidden radios, they followed her every move on the orders of Paul's Spike Eccles.
Yeah, okay, I've got that.
At this stage of the operation, Spike had to be certain she wasn't stopped and searched.
She's coming through. She's got blonde hair. She's with a minder who's got a long green coat. If you could let her through. Rubbish, please.
When you're dealing with people like the Cali cartel, the mafia, you know people's lives are at stake. Not so much mine, because I was organising behind the scenes, controlling, if you like. But people like the undercovers, they're the ones at risk.
Heidi was in London to meet a British man with a similar reputation for laundering money,
Heidi.
Robert Hampton.
Robert, how are you?
Despite the show of affection, this was the first time they'd ever met.
Spike, it's Craig. Okay, they've met, the targets have met.
Hey. Robert.
Have we got all our bags?
Yes.
Now they're leaving, they're on their way.
Well, that seemed to go smoothly enough. No sign of any interest in us.
Yeah, seems like it. Anyway, it had me convinced. I started to think, hey, maybe I do know this guy.
In fact, Heidi and Robert were both drugs officers working undercover as double agents. Spike had staked out the airport in case the drug barons were watching.
You're Spike.
Pleased to meet you.
That was great.
Anybody watching us?
No, your backs were clean. Anyway, you look like good friends. Money?
Yep. I need it turned around in 8 or 9 days so that I can pay it into the Colombian accounts in time.
Yeah, we'll get it straight in the pipeline.
Heidi Herrera was actually Heidi Landgraf, seen here in this secretly recorded video. As an undercover officer for the American Drug Enforcement Agency, she'd infiltrated the Cali cartel as a money launderer. It was part of an international trap which she hoped to spring all around the world on the same day, September 25th, now just a few months away.
Our goals were to dismantle the financial infrastructure and to find out how are they shipping cocaine to Europe? How are they getting cocaine into the UK? So the international objectives of the operation were very important because you realize drugs just don't go to the United States. They're connected throughout Europe.
The plan was for Heidi to recommend Robert, the UK undercover officer, as a possible money launderer for the Cali cartel in Britain. He and an officer playing his minder went to Berkeley Square in London to make contact with the cartel's agent, an unknown American. High above the square and keeping close watch was Spike Heckle.
Alpha, are you in position yet?
No, still moving. They're in 5, over.
Charlie, are you there yet?
Charlie, yes.
Spike, I think it's him. Where? Over there. Where? On the path. Spike, they've met up. They've met up.
Who's that over there? Don't worry about him, he's with me. Okay, no problem.
This meeting was secretly recorded and has never before been seen on television. We've hidden Robert's face. The American was dealing in millions.
So, can you do 1.5 for us?
1.5? Yeah, I can.
Great.
But you don't know me, I don't know you, so why don't we start with, say, 300K and see where we go from there.
It's okay with me so long as we get him moving.
Don't worry about that.
Robert had been told to launder the money in small batches. Customs needed time to find out more about this American who called himself Paul Carpenter. But already he seemed to trust Robert.
Thought I might go away tomorrow, though.
Spot of sightseeing.
Kinda. Get down to the Isle of Wight, maybe get a bit of sailing in.
Sounds good, yeah.
We weren't allowed to follow people away from meetings because of the threat of showing out, exposing ourselves to the targets. But here he was telling us where he was going to be at the weekend, where he was going to be at his leisure, when he wouldn't be looking, where he wouldn't be anticipating that anybody was watching him. So here was a chance for us to take a risk. And we were able to carry out a very loose, a very light surveillance exercise down on the Isle of Wight.
A customs officer posing as a tourist took these photographs of Paul and a second American known as Tim Hayworth.
They spent most of the weekend just drinking, socialising. It was obvious to us that they were well known down there.
Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
Back in London, the Americans were followed to a pub by Tower Bridge, where they seemed to be locals. They'd returned for the first handover of money, scheduled for the next day.
Obviously, the first one is the most fraught one because we're all hyped up. We don't know if there's going to be any dodgy dealings, but if there is going to be, this is when it's going to happen.
Robert and Paul met in the lounge of a Mayfair hotel. A security camera recorded the handover of £300,000.
Robert left and he wasn't followed, and we were able to get the money off him and put it into the pipeline, put it into the financial systems that we'd set up to launder the money back.
To prove that Robert could be trusted, this first batch of money would have to be laundered for real, transferred through various accounts before being paid back into the cartel's Colombian bank. But all other money they handed over would be confiscated.
Spike, good news. Yeah, the money's through to Colombia. They're very pleased. Yeah, they think Robert's doing a great job.
Spike and I were in constant communication. The moment I hung up the phone with the Colombian trafficker, I had to find him. Our lives were in their hands. I could be meeting with the traffickers, not knowing if there were a mistake in the UK, I would have been in jeopardy and not have known it.
By now, the Americans had been followed to a flat they rented near Tower Bridge. But so far, Spike still had no proof that their money was linked to drugs. He needed to establish that.
All right, John. Got some good news, mate.
Sorry, mate. Just the usual. Drinking, telly.
What, so you've seen nothing coming in or out? Nothing?
Just them.
But at the second meeting, this time to hand over £600,000 in cash, Spike's prayers were answered.
My friends are happy. They like the way you do things. We trust you.
Well, that's nice of you to say so.
I'd like to up it a couple of $100,000 next time, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And swing a little business your way. There's some stuff left over.
Really? How much?
43 Ks. That's all I got.
43. It's not really what I do, but I know someone. How pure is it?
Oh, it's good. It's very good. I just wish I had more to offer you.
Listen, I'll get this guy to give you a call. He's good. I've put a lot of business his way.
Excellent.
This was a major moment for us. Suddenly the drugs connection was being handed to us by the enemy. When they referred to 43 kilograms of cocaine, which is not a small amount by any stretch of the imagination, we knew that this wasn't a minor operation by the cartel, but this is a major one.
So Spike now had the drugs link he needed. And because it seemed likely that the Americans would have brought any major shipment of cocaine into the UK by boat, the search on the Isle of Wight was intensified. Meanwhile, a new meeting had been set for Berkeley Square. Another undercover officer, Brian, would pose as Robert's drug dealer. But Brian and Paul, the American, had never met, and both arrived early. Again, Spike videoed what happened.
We could see a bag at the side of him, so it definitely looked like he had the kilo of drugs. Well, that 1 kilo would have been enough for us. We were so close to getting this magical connection. All they had to do was one of them speak to the other and everything would be fine.
Come on, what's he doing? Come on, you just have to say hello, Brian. Come on, just say hello. He's been there 10 minutes. He's going to walk.
It was almost unbearable. We just wanted to bang on the window and shout to them, you know, please talk to each other, get on with it. And all the officers round about are pressing on the radio for information. What's happening? Is anything going wrong?
Finally, Brian, the undercover man, made his move.
How long you been sitting there?
I don't know. I think I know this off by heart.
I nearly gave up on you.
What's he trying to do? Give me a heart attack?
There's the first key.
That should do more than nicely. I'll have a look at it later and I'll give you a bell.
You won't be disappointed, guarantee it. Nice to meet you, Brian.
See you again.
Take care now.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Inside that red carrier bag was a kilo of cocaine, almost 90% pure. That alone had a street value of around £100,000.
So everything was really going well. We were all happy. And what we didn't know was disaster was just waiting around the corner for us. And we were very quickly brought back down to earth with a bomb.
The international arrest date for Operation Green Ice, September 25th, was now fast approaching. But first, Robert and the officer playing his minder were to collect another £800,000 of drugs money.
Spike to Craig. Targets are on their way. They're alone, they're alone.
Understood, understood.
This briefcase move was a signal to tell Robert that he wasn't being followed. Robert had his own danger signal. If he needed help, he'd put on his glasses. The meeting was planned to take place in full view of hotel security cameras.
Christine, I've got Zulu 1. He's on his own. He's coming into the foyer.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Something wasn't quite right with this one. It wasn't going the same pattern.
Who's got eyeball? Who's got eyeball?
Mike. Zulu 1. He's on his own.
Paul had materialised, but he had no bags with him. Tim was nowhere to be seen.
Where's the money? Can you see the money?
There's no sign of it. Hang on, they're on the move. I've lost them.
Then the pressure really started to mount because they were moving out of our control.
They're heading towards the lift.
Look for the danger signal. Repeat. Look for the danger signal.
Why are the bags upstairs?
Robert's not giving the signal. What do you want us to do, Spike? The lift's here.
Wait.
Spike, what do you want us to do?
The decision had to be mine.
Wait.
And all the time, officers were calling up for instructions. And finally, I decided to bite the bullet and to let it run.
Let them go.
We didn't know where they were going. We didn't know why they were going up in the lift, what was going to happen to them. He could have had a gun to the ribs. He could have been lured into a hotel room where weapons could have been produced. If anything was happening to them, I didn't know it at the time. And would I know too late? Would I be having to go back to the office to explain that 2 officers had been killed or, at least seriously hurt?
Robert could have been in real danger. Only the first batch of money had ever been paid back to the cartel. The rest was being held by customs. The cartel may well have believed that Robert was double-crossing.
Christine, Robert and Mark come out of the lifts. They've got the bags.
How do they look?
They look okay. They look okay.
My first opportunity to speak to Robert after the actual event was about an hour or so after it. And my first words were, what the hell happened? What the hell were you playing at? And run through it all for me.
Listen, I don't like last-minute changes of plan. They upset me.
Like I said, the bags are too big to leave in the lobby. That's why I got a room for the night.
Yeah, well, these things should be thought about in advance.
Robert, at the back of his mind was, seems logical, but is this the trap? Is this the worst moment? What do I do? Do I back out? Do I back out and still stay in character? And so he knew all the pressure was on him. But he also knew that I could have sent all the officers rushing in and could have blown it. And he was hoping we were staying cool, and he was hoping he could stay cool and that we'd all come out of it well.
In fact, Robert needn't have worried.
850 grand.
Rob, can you do me a favor? I got a little personal cash here. Can you put it through with the rest of this?
That little personal cash of Paul's was £160,000.
How did you get on with Brian? Did you manage to do any business with him?
Great. Nice guy. Is it okay if he gives you the payment and you clean it with all of this?
That suits me. We'll do it all together.
So everybody's happy?
Sure.
Good, good.
It was almost comical for us in that there we were negotiating to purchase a very large amount of drugs, and yet we weren't expected to actually physically hand over any money in return.
Spike's relief was understandable. The going rate for 42 kilos of cocaine is around £7 million.
Everything was very tense, but there was also a great feeling of excitement. We knew we were close to getting a further 42 kilos of drugs, which basically would have sealed the fate of the 2 Americans.
2 days before the knock or arrest day, and Paul arrives at Victoria Station for the cocaine handover. Next are customs undercover men Brian and his minder. They're all secretly recorded.
It was great to hear over the radio that our 2 officers were coming out wheeling these 2 suitcases, and we knew that we'd really got them. Normally we would have arrested them at that stage, but here we were. We had to wait till the 25th.
Okay, let's see what we've got.
Yes! Nice one! Look at that. I don't know about you. Pure white evidence, eh?
Everything set your end? Good. Be ready any time from now. Yeah, 7 countries waiting to go at exactly 11 o'clock GMT.
Everyone was really pleased, and it was now just a simple matter of doing the easy part, of just waiting until all the rest of the world were ready to go as well. We were ready. It was just fit in with everybody else. But then suddenly the phone rang and the world just fell apart for us.
Yeah, hello?
Spike, they're leaving.
What?
They're on the move.
The American sudden move caught everyone by surprise. It would be too much of a risk for the surveillance team to try and follow them.
No, you've done the right thing. Taxi! You leave Martin there in case they come back. Yeah, I'll get on to it.
We've notified the Americans, we're just waiting for their go-ahead, and suddenly we're in a situation where we suddenly didn't know where to go to arrest them. So all the euphoria suddenly burst, it disappeared.
No. They haven't done a runner. This is a straightforward move. They're covering their tracks. They're still here.
So what do you think? Isle of Wight?
Could be. Could be. They also talked about South Kensington a lot. They seem to really like the place.
So, we've got Isle of Wight, South Kent, or anywhere else in the UK.
Or anywhere else in the UK.
It was a near impossible task. With almost nothing to go on, 40 officers scoured the streets of South Kensington. A separate team searched the Isle of Wight.
And here was failure basically staring us in the face. We had to find them within hours. There wasn't days, there wasn't weeks, months. There was just literally hours.
I've been down Wellington Square and all the side streets and no sign.
No, I don't think they can be there.
Really?
No.
Anyone done Thurlow Place?
They can, but that was a couple of hours ago now.
Who is it?
It's Dave.
Yeah, tell him to have another look and check out those pubs again, will you? You got anything?
No, nothing.
Spike, DEA, Heidi.
Tell her I'm at a meeting and I'll call her back.
There was all this tension going on, and obviously we had to make the decision. Did we even tell the Americans, that we'd lost them? We decided we wouldn't worry them straight away.
Then, with only hours to spare, one of the London officers had an amazing stroke of luck.
Yes, Spike. It's Dave. I found him.
Where?
The Cooper's Arms on Flood Street.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Got him.
The pressure was so much, it was almost just, oh, thank God for that sort of atmosphere. Let's all have a stiff drink quick, and please don't move again.
The knock day had finally arrived, and like drugs teams around the world, Spike's officers were ready and waiting.
Whenever you're coming close to the knock time, the tension is just mounting and mounting.
Here he comes. Okay, he's moving south. He's moving south. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock.
An ideal knock happens very, very quickly. All you realise is that all of a sudden everyone around you has suddenly stopped being a pedestrian, and hopefully it comes out of the blue to whoever is on the receiving end of it.
Closing, break him down!
On suspicion of drug trafficking. Anything you say may be taken down and used in evidence. Look at me. Do you understand this? The weapons are now. Get in the car. Get him in the car.
What's it? Now. Go. Okay, steady.
At the same time that Paul Carpenter and Tim Haworth were being arrested in London, worldwide there were more than 300 similar arrests in the United States, South America, and Europe. More than $60 million were seized in cash and assets, and nearly 8 tons of drugs were recovered, worth $1 billion.
It's almost like when the day ended, you couldn't believe it, because you had been riding this wave of anxiety for so long. I was tremendously relieved.
Heidi Landgraf spent the next 2 years with a $4 million price on her head. She's still with the DEA, but no longer works undercover. Customs officers in the UK found the Americans' yacht on the Isle of Wight and uncovered a secret compartment big enough to smuggle 260 kilos of cocaine. The Americans turned out to be David Lemieux and Thomas O'Donnell, both on the top 10 wanted list for drug smuggling in the United States. They were each sentenced to 16 years in British high-security jails. On their release, they'll be extradited to America to face further charges. For Spike and his team, Operation Green Ice was the culmination of more than 2 years' work.
And there's just that great feeling of happiness that an operation has gone so well on such a large scale as this. Just a tremendous feeling just to be there and just to be sitting in the room. You can help but soak it all in and just be happy.
And somewhere in England, customs officers like Robert are still working deep undercover in the war against drug smuggling.
She's the type who has no trouble making enemies.
On a journey
The next time you go sailing, I hope you become fish food.
of no return.
That's me still a disappearing act to get back in the limelight, Jim.
A Case for Wycliffe. Sunday at 8 on Anglia.
Alec Baldwin, Kim Basinger and Michael Madsen in the movie premiere The Getaway, Tuesday at 9.
Next this evening, Jardine and Reed are under pressure to find Anna Pulaski's killer in Taggart.
These two